Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And before I introduce my guest, obviously I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, and they have books like House of the Golden Princess and White Lily, and you can find their books at pocketjackcomics.com. So obviously go check out what they do over on that side. And obviously I got with me Kevin Davis. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Obviously, you got a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff you're doing. Obviously, you have a Kickstarter going on right now, which is Halloween, which is
Yes,
funding on
sir.
Kickstarter, and we're going to talk about that, in a few minutes here. But before we get into that, obviously, why don't you introduce who you are? Because some people know who you are, some people don't know who you are, and I figured that I would give you the floor to introduce who you are.
Well, my name is Kevin Davis. I am a author, comic creator, writer, entrepreneur. I been told I'm a go-giver because I put my hands into a lot of different things. I've been in the comic book industry for about 4 years now. This year in May marks that's my four years officially in the comic book industry. Um, and I also design my own clothing. I write my own magazine, and I design my own shoes. And I occasionally get yelled at for not sleeping sometimes by by my friends, and they ask me to do how do I basically balance everything out in like such a short amount of time. And the answer is I don't balance out. I just go through it. Just to be honest with you, but I drink a lot of water, and when I need caffeine, I drink Coke and Pepsi sometimes. So, but yeah, I can say I am getting better at organizing, better making. I got my priority projects going first before I get into everything else. But I am getting better at organization as everything progresses.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this because obviously, I mean, you do a lot of stuff. Don't you? I think you have 3 or 4 comics out or coming out in the next few, month or two. I
Mhm.
think you have Arc Fry is one of them. I think Mad Pops is another one. I think
Mhm.
Terminus is another one that either is out or is coming out. And so, what is this like? Because obviously, I think you've done 7 or you have 7 somewhere in the works. I don't know what's published, what's not published per se, but obviously you have published work out there, and I think you've
Mhm.
done a few of these campaigns. So what is this like? Because that's the thing that I think is interesting is that when a creator is coming back for round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on Kickstarter versus their first one, because there is a
Mhm.
difference between those two creators.
Yeah. So Halloween is my second Kickstarter. Arcfire issue 2 was my first because I did Arcfire issue 1 on Indiegogo. And it's a whole different type of medium, and it's nerve wracking trying to set up a freaking Kickstarter. Um, but I would say that, but I don't, Arcfire, the first two Arcfires and Halloween are all actually officially published right now. Terminus and Mad Pops, they're coming soon down the pipeline, and Skin Shifter and everything that's coming down the pipeline later down the road. And then also my first, and I actually rebranded my magazine. It was originally called Kevin C International, but I felt like it was too corporate in a way. So that's why I revamped it and changed it to Kevin C Fate because it's a lifestyle horror comic magazine. Because you have business articles in there, you have comics in there, and you have mental health articles in there, and then so I also have interviews of other creators that's also are in like different industries. So I say my like in my magazine, I try to balance it out. It's like I want to entertain you with some comics and like some short stories, and then also bring awareness to that this stuff happens to in mental health. That I feel like mental health is not talked about enough. So that's why I added that into that. And then my friend who actually writes for my magazine, Dennis Knight, also writes business articles about what the do's and don'ts when you want to come into the comic book industry. But being a creator
Oh,
doing Kickstarter, it's a
we
nerve
have a
wracking.
whole discussion about the do's and don'ts.
Yeah,
A whole discussion on that. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
there's a lot of rules that you shouldn't do.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh
I
yeah. Most definitely.
can tell you one of the biggest do's to do though is that pleases and thank yous go a long way. They go a long way.
Oh yeah. It
I can
does.
tell you that. Um, and that doesn't apply to comics, everybody. That just applies to life in general.
Yep.
Please and thank yous. Oh my God,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
goes a long way. But obviously you got a lot going on. Obviously you got the magazine, you got that going on, but I want to get into your Kickstarter because I think that's what is the most prevalent at the moment. Not saying anything else is not important. It's all important. I want to make that crystal clear. There's only a few other things that are more important. One of the major things broke. That we could talk about also in May. I don't know if you saw what's going on in May now. But if you did see it, everybody knows. But I'll ask your opinion on that a little bit later. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Just nod your head yes if you know it. But anyway, not the but I do want to talk about your Kickstarter. So obviously we have Halloween, and this is interesting, right? So what is the basic premise of it before we get into it? Because I have a viewpoint that might be a little bit different than other people on the book. I figured I'd allow you to at least introduce the book before I destroy it. No, we're not going to destroy it.
Oh, you're going to destroy my book. Oh, man. But the premise of Halloween is basically it's two killers dressed up in a clown suit, the exact same clown suit, going around social media and basically finding their victims to kill. But the lore is it's originally started with two brothers. They were twin brothers, Ethan and Evan. Because they started all of this, but the thing is, they've been dead for years in Halloween, and so it's basically like cat and mouse. Like, is this like a copycat killers, or it's like a fan cult, or it's like are they related to Ethan and Evan somehow? But these two new clowns in Halloween are actually going after a group of friends. So it's like they're trying to up the ante and like try to basically try to be better or more vicious than Ethan and Evan did years ago.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit because obviously there's a few things going on here, right? So we have and technically there's some questions that could be asked here, but on the basic surface, we have these two killers that are copycat killers of what the original two, I guess, brothers were, who are supposedly dead. Whether they're dead or not, is up in the air per se, because it could be a plot twist. We don't know. But obviously we have now a copycat killing or revive killing, whatever you want to call it, going on. And there's more to it though, because there's obviously stuff in this town that's in play per se. Maybe it wasn't, maybe this isn't black and white. There's some gray going on here, because I think there is. And then you also get the whole thing where it's kind of like this group of friends now has to deal with these two killing clowns in a unique situation where it's up against the clowns and not trying to get hunted down, right? I mean, so like, what is that like? Because it's so interesting because it's almost like a board game. Like,
oh, you're actually the first person to actually said that. That's actually kind of how it is. It is like let's play playing chess and checkers. So yeah, it is kind of like a board game because you're trying to figure out which way to go and like which one's the route that this story is going. And so like this is like one of the hardest stories I've actually written so far. That's I wanted to, because I always try to think outside the box, like do something that's somewhat not done before. And so I mixed different genres up together. And so I'm like, Halloween is not your typical just slasher. But like it has a slasher, it's a murder mystery. It also has supernatural elements to it too. And so I was like, I want to do something a bit crazy that's out the box, but actually not too crazy that it be confusing. Well, I want you to because I want people to keep guessing. I want people to love characters. I also want people to hate characters, and I want people to be pissed at me for killing off a character they might like. I don't know, but so that's why I kind of like split this book into like two parts because there is a lot that I'm doing for this particular storyline. So this Kickstarter is part one of the Halloween saga. But as I continue like edit and write it, it might possibly become a trilogy. But we'll see how I feel about after I finish book two, because there is a lot that I'm putting into this that I'm really hoping blows people's minds whoever reads it. But yeah, it's definitely a board game in a way. It's like you're playing tarot cards on steroids.
So yeah, so let's go even further into this because obviously, I mean, there is a lot going on. And it's a group of friends and they're dealing with this problem, and it's got that 80 vibe to it a little bit. It's kind of got a little bit of a stranger things going on a little bit. I feel to it, because I definitely feel like this is an '80s comic. You know what I mean? Like
Really? That's a huge compliment for I've never heard somebody say that about my stuff. That's thank you for that, man.
because it feels like that, right?
Huh. Okay.
Like in the '80s, no parents were around, kids had to deal with their problems.
Yeah.
This is an '80s adventure. I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's not
Yeah.
we're not, we're not in the '70s in this book. If we were, they'd be doing something else, and we're definitely not in the '90s because I don't see a boy band around. So it can only fit in the '80s. No, I'm joking, obviously, but it really is this vibe of the '80s is what I get out
Yeah.
of it. And so I don't know if that was
Interesting.
intended or if it just wrote itself that way. But that's what's also interesting about this book is
It
that
actually it's funny. It actually was not originally intended. I was just writing it out and letting the story tell itself as I was writing everything out. And actually, the rate and it's actually very humble. It's actually very cool that you actually see like an '80s vibe to it because I love the '80s horror too. Like I'm a big fan of the '80s. I'm like I've always been told I'm an old soul, so I guess my old soul kind of translated into the story a bit. Yeah, because I'm a big fan of the '80s horror, like pretty much the old school movies and everything. So yeah, so that's really interesting.
yeah, because and again, I mean, I think the story is relatively straightforward. That's why, like, I'm not trying to beat it down with a dead horse because I don't think it's we have a group of friends and clowns are trying to kill them, and then there's some
Mhm.
plot twists along the way. But we know the confrontation that's going to occur.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what makes this also really interesting. Is that if you pick up your book, and I'm going to
Mhm.
say this the nicest way I could say it. Hopefully, it's not going to come off bad. I know the conflict before I pick up the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about that because in comics, I'm sure you've picked up a bunch of books and read books, and you're like, I thought the conflict was going to be A, and the
Mhm.
conflict was B, and I didn't
Mhm.
want B as the conflict. I wanted A. I mean, I'll give a good example of this, right? So
Mhm.
Jurassic Park, right?
Yep.
Of
Oh.
Jurassic Park, right? I mean, we know the conflict from the beginning of Jurassic Park.
Yep.
We're in a dinosaur park, and something's going to go wrong, right?
Yep.
But I like I mean there are other movies where I'm like I did not see this as the conflict, and so
Mhm.
I think there's something to be said about writing and letting people know and being honest with
Mhm.
you before you even pick up my book. You know what you're gonna get, and
Mhm.
I think it's a real. It's not always good, but I feel like as a consumer sometimes I want to know what I'm buying. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense because I tell people a lot when I'm writing. I'm not trying to write like to use big words that you have to find to understand what's happening. I just write straightforward, let you know this is what's happening right now. And I'm like I want you to have fun with it at the same time. So I try to make it unpredictable at times, but I still want but because I want people to ask questions and like uh us and like imagine what's going on and like predict what's gonna happen. So I'm like, I want you to know what's about to happen, but I also want you to keep guessing what's about to happen. If that makes sense, what I just said. So yes,
It does. It does. And then I want to go further into a few more things here because
mhm,
obviously there's some other stuff going on as well where it
mhm,
is horror and it is suspense. And I think it's really interesting, right? Because at this point in comics, movies, it is hard to terrify somebody. I don't know how you feel, but I think it is really, really difficult to scare the shit out of somebody.
oh, it is. It really is.
It makes somebody. Yeah, I mean, I'll ask you the question that when was the last time you had to look over your shoulder because you were terrified?
16 years ago.
Okay, so okay,
It's like
you-
16 years ago.
you're making my point to a
Yeah,
degree. Like, every once
because
in a while, like,
yeah,
I'll see.
because I was a kid. Because that's when I watched the first Insidious movie when I was a kid.
I,
So
I
yeah.
I forget what movie it was, but there was something that scared the shit out of me, right?
Mhm,
And like you gotta, I mean, maybe 4 years ago, something happened, and I had to look over my shoulder for like a good like 2 weeks,
mhm,
and not and it scared me, but it wasn't horror. So something happened in
mhm,
my life that made me just be a little bit more aware of my circumstances. Is a good way
mhm.
to put it, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, but that's my point is that so what is this like? Because I'm not saying you want to terrify somebody that they're screaming in the middle of the night, terrified with your
No.
books, but at the same time, it's really tricky, right? To make somebody at least feel a slight sense of being scared or feeling suspense or being chilled out or getting that little quiver, right? You ever get a little quiver? Like, "Ugh,"
Yeah, yeah,
or you get like a cold
um,
breeze when it's like 90 degrees outside
yeah.
on like every once in a while you just get like one of those.
Oh yeah.
What is that like? Because that's a really hard thing, and I don't know if people are hitting it anymore because it's hard to scare the shit out of me.
With me, I'm not really like a big like jump scare type of person. I mostly try to focus on the emotion and like the intensity because I want when I'm writing the story because I feel like that's what's also missing is like you're not getting me intense or like having me care for these characters. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's where I mostly approach it is like the emotional level when I'm writing stuff, especially for Halloween. Like I want you to I'm like if you get scared, that's cool. Like bonus to me, I guess. But well, I'm not. But my main focus is not trying to scare people. I'm actually trying to entertain, but also have fun. And I'm hoping that you feel that emotional connection with these characters, and that you feel from the art and from the story of the book itself. So I'm not really focusing on like trying to scare you like these jump scares out the blue. Um, But and I know some people are afraid of clowns. So I'm like if you're afraid of clowns, it's probably not for you. So, because a friend of mine, I was on a show with her. She saw my comic and she's like, she's afraid of clowns. But she probably, but she backed my campaign. She's like, she probably gonna get it, probably not gonna read it because she's afraid of clowns. I was like, well, okay, thank you though for backing it. But yeah, my focus is not really trying to scare people. I really just want you to feel for the story and feel for the characters.
So it's interesting, right? Too, because obviously, I mean, I mean, one of the things about comics, and this is going to tie in, is especially with feeling for characters, is if you make somebody care about your character and then you kill them off, right? Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
Growth point, whether it's a necessary point, whether you just want to kill off a character,
Mhm.
because I'll be honest with you, how many times in a comic book does a bunch of characters die and you don't really give a damn that they died? You
Not
don't
at all.
they die,
Not at
right?
all.
Not
Yeah.
saying that we want them dead per se, but like, but like when you have a situation in a story where a character you care about they die, and for instance, we could use your book. Let's say one of these group of the friends gets stabbed by the clowns and the others escape, but you care about this, and now that death is a massive moving point for them
Mhm.
dealing with this issue and dealing with this, and shit just got serious. I mean that's part of it, right? Like
Yep.
you need consequences, right? For
Yep.
act.
Exactly. Yep.
If there are no consequences, then what's the point of doing anything in a story? Because
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think within reason. Some stories don't need any consequences. If we're all going to the park together, like My Neighbor Totoro, there are no consequences in that movie. None. None at all. But it's
Not at
brilliant.
all. Oh my God.
But it doesn't
Oh.
need it. It doesn't need it. But
Mhm.
with Princess Mononoke, I'm a big anime Studio Ghibli fan, everybody, in case you didn't know that. There's consequences in that movie for
Mhm.
every character.
Yep.
And you need those consequences. So like that's the thing about this is that like when you care about a character and they die, that's a major consequence.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's exactly how I approach it. It's like I want you. I build up. I try to build up the characters enough to see if like a audience member gets attached to that character or characters. And so because in a comic you will learn like the individual friends like backstory to show like the connection of everything. I will say that. I will put that out there. That you will see that backstories, but somebody said you probably make a prequel to this. I'm like, no, I'm not making an entire prequel to this because I wouldn't. I'm like, it would be a waste of my time making an entire prequel. I'll show you flashbacks in these comics that you in these Hall of Fame comics, but I'm not going to make a full-fledged backstory. Like, I mean, yes, I will explain Evan and Ethan's backstory in the Hall of Fame comic, but I'm not going to waste my time making an entire prequel. You know what I mean?
So to go into this, and sorry to interrupt. I mean, I'm
You're
curious.
good.
Is that if you kill off a character,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, because I don't think your books are shared universes, are they?
It is a shared universe, but you don't have to read one book to understand the other.
So because if you kill off a character in one of these universes, they can't appear in the universe again, and they're dead for the most part. And so because it's really interesting, right? When you kill off
Yeah.
characters and you have real consequences,
Mhm.
like, it's actually a complicated issue, right? Because
Mhm.
if all of a sudden that character is massively popular, but they're dead, you're limiting what you can do per se with that character, even though the other characters have evolved. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, if you kill off Ethan, in this book, I mean, in the final, if you do 12 issues and you kill him off in the 12th issue to take out the two clowns, you can't. Ethan's dead now, but what if Ethan is popular, and what if Ethan's like the favorite character in your universe? Like, it creates a very interesting, complicated decision, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying you're making that decision today, but like, because the payoff would be fantastic, but you
Mhm.
also just took out a whole character you developed that you could write that is not going to have another journey.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like, and
Yep.
I don't know if you think like that, but like, it's very complicated, I think, to kill characters. It
Oh yeah,
permanently.
it's definitely complicated because when I tell you I have like so many drafts before I finalize a project because I have like 100 drafts at like sometimes I was like nah, this doesn't make sense. I don't like this. I'm like rewrite it. And so I was like, okay. So the way I do it is like I put my mind into my character's head because I understand each and every one of them. I was like, okay, I'm like, which one? I'm like, if I kill you off, this would cost this. I was like, but if I keep you alive, I could expand it to cost this. I was like, which one will pay off better? And so I'm like, if I kill you here, will people care? You know what I mean? It's like,
Did you also feel, sorry to interrupt again, but you also say, cool, I'm thinking I'm going to kill off character. Let's say we're going to kill
uh,
off Ethan, right? I
mm,
want to kill off Ethan in issue 12, right? You're doing this 4 issue arcs. You're doing it, making it a trilogy. I don't know what you're doing exactly, how you want to plan it out, but hypothetically here. And
yeah.
then you say, wow, everybody loves this character. And if
Mhm.
I kill him off, this is going to be bad, meaning that I'm going to leave 30 grand on the table. I hate to write for money, right? But it has to be in the back of your head to some degree, right? I mean, so like now you might say, you know what is, I could kill off this other character. The payoff will still be decent, but I now realize that if I kill off Ethan, we're gonna have the best completed story arc of this, and then all these other
Mhm.
characters are gonna move on, but we're never gonna get Ethan part two. It will We're 30 grand, and I can't kill off Ethan because there's too much money, and it might fuck up the company, for lack of a
Mhm.
better word here, right? Like, I don't know if
Mhm.
that goes through your head too, because somebody can say, look, I loved this, and you had an original thought when you're writing to kill off a character. You say, if
Mhm.
I kill off this character, it's going to create more problems than good for me, because people really, because now this character could go and have another 60 issues, for lack of a better word.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Um, but right now, I know Halophane is a two-parter. It might be a trilogy. Like I said earlier, because it is a lot that I'm putting into this story. Um, but um, so yeah, but sometimes I do think about, I was like, if I'm killing off a character way too early, or if I'm killing off a character way too late. So it's really that balance of, I was like, okay, which route should I go? You know what I mean? And I was like,
Doesn't it also? I mean, you're kickstarting it, right? And I hate
yeah.
to say it this way, right? I don't have an equity stake in your book, but
Mhm.
I do have a stake in your book as far as a consumer goes,
Mhm.
to a degree, because you are crowdfunding it. And I think
Mhm.
if you're crowdfunding a book, you have to take into consideration your readership. I really think that you owe the reader, some props. I think you owe the reader to do right by the characters, and then the
Yep.
reader to not kill off certain characters to some degree. I'm
Yeah.
not saying, because I think you forgo rights if you crowdfund your book. I really do.
Mhm.
And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think you forego certain rights where you have to do the right thing with your characters, and you can't be, we're going to kill them all, and I know everybody loves these characters. I don't think you can do that. I mean, you legally can, but I think you owe, and you have a responsibility and a fiduciary to some degree to do the
Mhm.
right thing here for I mean, that's what I think at the very
Mhm.
least, because you're asking me for money. And the
Mhm.
second you take my money, you owe me the appropriate fiduciary responsibility ending, and you owe these characters, at least as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to craft on your book. Now, it might be an
Yeah.
unpopular opinion. I don't have an equity stake, but I
Mhm.
do feel that I have a particular stake in that.
Mhm.
That's how I feel. I mean, maybe it's, and if you don't like that, then you should craft on your book. No,
Yeah.
seriously,
Oh
I
yeah.
think
I agree with you actually.
it's a social contract. It's a social
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah. I mean, I actually stand with you on that one. Because when I'm backing books, and especially if it's an ongoing series that I backed each book, yeah, and I'm hoping a certain character doesn't like get killed off or go to a certain route that I think it's about to go. So yeah, I'm actually right with you on that because I backed a lot of books on Kickstarter, and there's a lot of characters I love. They actually treated right, in my opinion. So and then I mean that was like a character that might be like a character I hated how they wrote it, but that's their story. But I still love the series because the way they wrote their story, it actually made sense why their character went that way. So I wasn't too mad, but I was still mad. so yeah.
Again, I think there is a social contract. I do. I don't think I have an equity stake in anybody's book. I think though
Mhm.
that there is a social contract, and I think it's a very
Agreed.
unspoken rule, and I think it's a very controversial thing. And
Mhm.
I think though that people forgo certain rights when you're asking me for money. I genuinely think that there's a reason why I'm probably never ever going to want to do a Kickstarter for this show again, because I felt that I gave up certain rights on my
Mhm.
podcast, and I don't want to give up those rights. And that's just
Fair.
my opinion. And
That's
look, I
fair.
mean, it's an open, fair debate that can be had.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sure that people who see this are going to disagree with parts of that openly, and that's perfectly fine. You have
That's
every right to
fine.
disagree. It's an open discussion, if anything. But the
Oh
other thing
yeah.
I want to touch upon, though, is that you're doing a horror book in February. I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if you knew this. October is 8 months away.
I know. I know.
So
I released Halloween on Friday the 13th, which I didn't know it was Friday the 13th. So
there's a few things. There's a few things here. So one of my biggest pet peeves, and I hate this, and I don't know if this was intentional by you or not, is you have a Halloween book. You're doing it in October, but I'm not getting your book in Halloween. I'm backing it in October. It's counterintuitive, right?
yeah.
So it's the Halloween spirit when I back it, but I'm getting your
Mhm.
book in May. Like that
Right.
makes no sense. But
Right.
I mean, if you want to get people their book before October, let's say your goal is to get it to them August, September, they're gonna have their
Mhm.
book in a horror book full of clown killers, which is perfect for Halloween in
Mhm.
October, right? And I
Yep.
don't know if that was intentional. I don't know how fast your turnaround time is, but I think there's something to be said about that. Where isn't the point to have the book in somebody's hand in October, not to fund it in October? I mean, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm the crazy one here, and maybe I don't get it. But I think there. I mean, I don't even think I'm saying anything smart here, but like, I want to read a Halloween book in October. I don't want to back it in October.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. That's it. That's also funny. Because after Halloween, I have another horror book coming like in the summer. That's gonna be perfect in time for for October. So that's but yeah, I I I didn't. Or somebody brought it up to me that I was when I said February 13th. I said, that's Friday the 13th, right? I was like, wait, really? And I didn't even look at the calendar. I just picked the date when I wanted to launch this thing. And it's like, yeah, so that's actually perfect for a Halloween book that you're launching it in on Kickstarter on Friday the 13th, dude. Like
I think that's cool, but
I was like,
again, my whole viewpoint is that if
mhm,
I'm to back a horror Halloween themed book, I want to
mhm,
get it in October, right?
mhm,
I want to get it in September so I could have it for October, right?
mhm,
Because that like I don't want to back your project in October that if it's
mhm.
Halloween and get it in May because it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, yeah,
And even if I get your book in June or July, at least I have it before Halloween. It's not
yeah,
perfect, doesn't line perfectly, but I
yeah,
would rather get it before Halloween and get it before
mhm,
October than after, right?
yeah,
So like, and I think there's something to be said about all this, and I don't know if again because there is a misconnect here because and I'm curious how you feel about this. Is that I get that if you have a Halloween book and you fund it in October, you're probably gonna get a bump because people are in the mood and that's what they're looking for. But at the
mhm,
same time, I'm not enjoying the product when it should be enjoyed
yeah,
in its prime. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's certain things that are enjoyed in their prime, right? I'll
yeah.
give you an
I
example.
agree.
I'm not going to drink a pumpkin beer in the springtime, right? I'm drinking
No,
a pumpkin beer in the fall,
but
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'll drink like a summer ale in the
mhm,
summer, right? I'll
yeah,
drink. I mean, I could drink my whiskey whenever I want to drink my whiskey because whiskey is
mhm,
not, seasonal position, but like I tend to drink stouts in the winter, right? So
oh yeah,
like, but like that's my thing is that so I'm just curious how you feel about that because it's tricky on the business side of making sure you fund to get the most money you can get for your project, but also
mhm,
making sure that when your reader reads it, they're reading it at the right time and what you want to achieve. Because if you're
mhm,
reading a Halloween book in the middle of summer, it doesn't have the same effect.
mhm. It does not. It does not at all. Like I will say, I'm like whoever gets, I'm like the book, whoever backs it and gets the physical book, they will get it before Halloween, and that's up to them if they want to wait to read it until Halloween.
That is true. You could
Uh,
always wait. That is
yeah,
true.
I'm like that's
I am
completely up
defeated
to
on
them.
that point. I will take the L on that point.
Yeah,
I think the rest of my argument still stands pretty tall. But continue.
yeah. But the thing, and but the thing, I got advice. I'm like, not to launch anything around like October or like, because that's the holiday season, and people are already like crushing and like getting things together for their families and stuff. And and yeah, I'm like,
Who
and if
gave
you,
you
I'm like,
that
if you launch a
advice?
project, I was like, if you launch a like horror book, I think it would be good to launch it a few months before October, and so people can buy it and you can ship it out as soon as your Kickstarter funds and you get the funding to get it printed and ship, and they can, like I said, they can wait to read it until it's like the Halloween season. 'Cause they have the spirits mostly up during that time for a horror story.
It's interesting, right? Because
Mhm,
I don't know if you've heard this before, but you know, a few people said this. Luke Stone
mhm,
said it very well, and I like
mhm,
Luke a lot. And what he said is that a Kickstarter is not complete until everybody got their book or what they backed.
mhm.
So you could say I funded my campaign and that issue's done, but you got
Yep,
to still print it and you got to get it into people's hands, right?
that part.
That is
Yeah.
a complete Kickstarter. Now, you could have an incomplete Kickstarter, but you could have 99% of it done and a backer just never gave you their address. But your Kickstarter is not complete technically.
Mhm,
But you, as far as we're all gonna call it, we technically say it's complete at that point. If three
mhm,
backers just never gave you their address, right? And you have
mhm,
their stuff, and whenever they give you your address, you're good, right?
mhm,
But technically you're not complete. But until everybody has what they backed, your campaign isn't complete. So
mhm,
there is something to be said about that where and also, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I want to give people the best experience I can give them. I run an eBay business and I pack a certain way and I try to get
mhm.
people their product as fast as humanly possible because I want them the best experience they could have.
Yeah,
You
that's exactly how I am. That's why I always like try to give constant updates of what's going on. Like with my first Kickstarter, I have like printing issue. I let my backers know. I was like having printing issues, had an artist issue, had to because was on my artist got hacked on his like payment thing, so we had to get that issue figured out so we get the pages in from him. And then I had to go to a different printer, and because printing was having issues and it was being over costly, so I had to find a whole new printer to get the books in. And so, but with all that, I let my backers know. I said, update, update, update. This is what's going on. Your books will be in the mail soon. So that's why I like to keep the trust going. And then I, and sometimes the other time I got sick, and so I couldn't really. Oh, woo, take you different out. Like, hold on, guys. Ooh, there you go.
Happened again.
Oh,
StreamYard's being difficult with me today. It's
man.
being difficult with me today. I don't know why it's being difficult today. Maybe they're just having an issue. I don't know. Maybe it's my internet. I don't know. But what were you saying? You said you got sick and you were talking about issues.
Oh yeah, I was like even when I got sick, I let my backers know. Say, hey, I was like I got sick, so I got a little bit delayed with packing stuff up. But you guys, this package will be out as soon as possible. And then a winter storm hits, and I was like, oh Jesus! I'm like, I just want to get this out. Jesus Christ! I'm like, come on! And then so I got snowed in. I was like, but I always make sure I constantly let people know. I was like, I am so sorry again. Now there's a freaking winter storm. The post office and the delivery service are closed, so things are a bit backed up. But your books are on the way. And so that's I always learn like you have to keep building that and building that trust, and that's make sure that people know what's going on, so they won't be lost in the loop of what's going on.
So let's actually talk a little bit about that too, because obviously there are a lot of challenges, right?
Oh God,
In
yes.
in comics, right? I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
an understatement. I'm being very generous when I say that.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of
Challenge.
stuff goes on, right?
A
Um,
lot. Yes.
so obviously I'm gonna list some of them, right?
Mhm.
Obviously there's the first and foremost is printing is always difficult. There's no question about that. It is changing. It is an ever-changing battle. I think
Yes,
it
it
the
is.
way how to put it. Prices go up and they really only go up. Printers come and go. We had a
Mhm.
paper issue. We have overseas issues. We got tariff issues. Also figuring out who can print your book. If you're doing
Yeah.
specialty stuff,
Mhm.
definitely complicated. If you're doing foils, spot foils,
Mhm.
metals, all of that, very complicated. Also, the idea is how much you want to print. I mean,
Yeah.
that's always a fair question, and I'm gonna let you answer all of this in 1 second. So, and then just also, is who you go with and who you trust, because
Yeah.
a
Oh my
lot
God.
of different companies and what's the best deal you can get, right?
That
And
part. Yeah.
so how do you deal with printing? Because I think that's one of the bigger challenges.
Um. One. I. One. I hear a lot of people talk about what printer they use. And so I do my research. I look at how their setup is, and I look at the cost. Like, okay, we'll see. But like for example, I started with a printing company called Lulu, where you can publish on you can like make a bookstore on their website and print your books and stuff, yada yada yada. But recently they have gone up on prices for no freaking reason,
You
and
know,
I and they printed. Wait, sorry, what's
continue.
up?
Oh, continue.
Oh, and I was like, but they went up on pricing for I don't know for whatever reason, and so I printed my original magazine before I rebranded it. The magazine came out horrible. The quality was trash, and I was like, and you want me to pay for this? I'm like, you want me to pay this much for? And you just gave me this, like literally, when you look, if you could look at the original, it was your eyes would go crooked just looking at the cover. I was like, oh no, no. And so I learned about Comics World Spring, and I was hesitant because I was like, I don't know, but I'm gonna try it out. Luckily, I was able to get like one sample before I could order, like, because they allowed me to get one sample before I order quantity of it. And I did the same thing. I got the sample of my magazine from Comics World Springs. It was so freaking beautiful. It was flawless. I could actually see it, see it, and my eyes wasn't crooked. and I was like, okay, this is actually a really good printer, and they're actually cost effective. I was like, okay, I bought the quantity of it, and it was super fast. It was like a week later, I got after my like a week or two later after I got ordered the quantity. The packaging was beautiful, and it came in safe and sound. And I was like, okay, I think I can stick with these guys. They're actually professional, and they're actually cost effective. And I said, okay, so yeah, I go with Commonwealth Springs with my books
So,
now
so,
instead.
so let me ask a few more things regarding
Mm,
printing because the more you order, obviously there's offset printing, you
mm,
know, there's print on demand,
mm,
and until you're printing 1,000 copies or
mm,
2,000, 3,000, or you have even 2,000 copies for whatever reason, there's good or bad reasons to do this. Is that obviously the more you print, the more effective it is. So if you're printing 3,000 copies of a book, you're going to be paying a lot less than if you're printing 300 copies. But you're also going to be spending more money. You're going to have more inventory. And I don't think you're going to mind me saying this, but obviously you're studying business right now in school. I don't think hopefully I didn't out you. If I did, I'm sorry.
oh,
Um,
I talk about it all the time, so it's fine.
I figured it
Yeah,
wasn't a big out.
it's
I
not.
figured
It's
it wasn't a big out, right?
it
So
just when I mention that, people still ask me, it's like, dude, how you do all of this and you're in bachelor's still like, do you sleep? I'm just like, yes and no.
so
So it's yeah.
so the point I'm making is obviously because if you print 3,000 copies, you have more merch, you have a
Mhm,
cheaper position. It's going to run you anywhere from $1,800 to $2,200 to do it. You spend more money
mhm.
up front, but now you have product, but you got to sell your product. And,
Yeah,
and, and this is the whole debate, the whole discussion, the whole complication,
yeah,
and it's a mess. And I've had
yeah.
this discussion with other people, but that's really I feel that's the other challenge of printing is that how much do you print? Why are
Mhm,
you printing what you're printing? And do you even want 3,000 copies of this thing running around? Or do you really want 500 and you want to make it so that because you want to get to a trade, right? And
mhm.
this is where this gets really complicated. And it's a very complicated position. I don't know how you think about it, or even if you have thought about it, because everybody has a different solution on this. I have a different position because I like buying products in bulk. I bought a lot of product in bulk and I made a lot of money doing it, especially when
Mhm,
you're right. When you're really, really right, you make
mhm,
a lot of money in that, and I buy cards very, very much at wholesale prices.
mhm,
And the margins are like 35, 40% on them. So,
mhm.
versus if I bought them in singles, there'd be no profit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like buying stuff in bulk actually. But I always buy one as a sample just to see how the quality is before I even think about doing a bulk. I have trust issues. I have to make sure I can trust this before I even think about buying multiples of it. But
Let me ask you this: is that what
Mhm,
is bulk for you? Is bulk because isn't it the issue? Is that obviously you want to fulfill the orders on Kickstarter, right? Feel
mhm,
free to stop me at any point. You want to fulfill the orders on Kickstarter, right? You
mhm,
then also want some if you're doing a convention, and then
mhm,
other stuff. You might want some to vault for your own, private vault, your own collection. Maybe you want 10.
mhm.
Maybe you want to give some to your mom or to your
Yeah.
significant other or your family or whoever,
Mhm.
then you also want some maybe for your online store too, right? And then you want to give
Yeah.
some comps to people maybe. But then
Mhm.
you also, I mean, you might want 200 copies if you're doing a bunch of conventions, right? You need
Yeah.
product. Otherwise, what's the
Yeah.
point of going to a convention, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these are all really complicated on how much you order, right? So like, how do you
Yeah.
even?
So when I'm buying bulk I start like 25, like just to focus like for the Kickstarter, because I don't know how many people are gonna buy the physical, so I just go start like 25 like for Kickstarter backers and stuff. And then when I see a good number, when I see the number of the physical copies on Kickstarter, I get those sent out. And then I have a few left in hand. I'll buy like another 25, like to hold for myself. Like when I go out, like to like I guess like a craft fair or like you said conventions. And so like I try to so I keep so right now I stay like 25 in hand for myself. And
So that's interesting
yeah.
because I would do it the other way. I if I was doing it, And if I ever do a comic, I mean, I might do an 800 run. That's it, right? So I might have it like I mean, the idea I want to do is that every book would only have 200. So there's only 200 copies available. So I'm gonna order 800 books straight out. I'm gonna do it the complete opposite way. I'm actually gonna simplify it because I think I can make more money by just ordering 200 at once and not have to ever reprint it again. So once those 200 are gone, they're gone. Because the objective is to sell it the Kickstarter and be done and have to wait around for 2 weeks doing nothing. That's the objective, right? I want to reverse engineer the process, but but if I was to do it, I would want to buy like 200 copies at once, right? And I would want to have to reorder for a long time because I feel that that it's going to simplify my ordering process. I'm going to save money on the shipping, and I now have inventory that I can move at my discretion. I can control the inventory flow for a while. And then I don't have to say, oh man, I'm running low on my stock. I got 5 left. I got to order 25 now. I find it fascinating because again,
I start with 25 because one, I'm still like a new kid on the block in comics. So I try to start like a certain point and then see if the interest starts to grow. And like, because sales takes a minute, and especially when you're new in the world. So I was like, and so when interest like really start growing, then I'm gonna start like getting like 200, 300 copies. Once my book, like my story, I started getting out there and more noticed.
I mean, maybe I'm different because I want to order like 300, 400, 500 copies to do a book and never ever order another bunch. Be like, I'm out of these. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Yeah.
There's 500 copies of this. I'm not reordering this. I don't want to reorder. Move on to the next one. I want to order enough product, put it into a long box. Basically, I want to build one of those big white long boxes, right? And that's it. That's the run. That's it. So Kickstarter plus that 300 copies.
And then the plus, I think about the space around me. I don't have as much space to hold like 300 copies just yet. But that's also I order like a certain amount.
It's just long. It's short. Order 150. Do a short box then. Perfect. Because again, I want to simplify my accounting, right? That's all I want to do, right? That's the whole point of it is that I want to simplify my ordering and my accounting because that to me is where I become efficient. And that's the thought process. And that's why I find it so interesting because you're doing it the exact opposite way I would do it. And I find it so interesting, right? Because it's not wrong. It might even be better to a degree, but I just think it's so interesting, right? Because I do it the exact opposite way. And I'm like, that's so interesting, right? Because I take the complete opposite side of what you do, the way I would do it, right? The complete opposite, and just say, I'm never gonna have to order again. I'm never gonna have to send this order ever again, like because I don't want to do it again, right? That's why, right?
Oh yeah.
I hate ordering things in bulk that way. I hate it. It's just like I just want to be one and done. Like, but I find it so fascinating. But I do want to move on to another point. I'm sorry. Look, I find it so fascinating because when people think differently than I do. Because if we all thought the same, it'd be quite a boring life, wouldn't it? It'd be incredibly boring if we all thought the same. Just because we can't all be right about things, and I am, doesn't mean that you're. No, but I do want to talk about a few more challenges. Obviously, the other thing is, and you're a podcaster, and so you know this is that everybody right now is struggling for media attention, in one way or another. And I mean, I hate to say this, not everybody who's a guest is the same. Not every guest on my show that I've been doing this, 1,200 plus interviews is not the same. There are people who obviously have more skills, have a bigger following, have more knowledge, have less knowledge. There are people who are just prettier. There are also things where I'm interviewing something or somebody or a thing or a cosplayer, and she just happens to be, in a certain cosplay that's popular, right? And if you get, 2,000 views, not because of what's being said, but because of how she looks. I mean, I hate to say it, right? We're visual creatures, right? So not everybody is the same, but I know for a fact everybody's craving for media, and you're running your project and you're craving for media too. And so what is that? Because that's a big issue is how do you get somebody to stop to look at what you're doing, let alone back it?
Man, I'm still learning that today. But from what I've learned, one, you have to show that you're confident in your product because I've always been taught is like if you're not confident in what you're selling, the consumer is not going to be confident. It's not going to be confident buying it, if that makes sense. And then, like with comics, you have to have a very eye-catching cover because the art, like people always said, the art like opens the door to pique somebody's interest, and then the writing keeps them. So, but you have to not be afraid to put yourself out there and just show who you are and telling them your story and telling them why they should back you and why you think they will love this comic that you made or whatever product that you're selling. So yeah, but it's definitely a challenge because, like you said, not everyone gets the viewers or like the media attention. I'm like, yes, it gets tiring, but we have to do what you got to do to basically survive and do what we love. But that's well, I know one of my friends always said, get on podcasts, get on many podcasts you can, especially when you're wanting a Kickstarter, because each one has a different audience that you could potentially reach. So you never know
It's
who
even
you're
more
gonna
than
catch.
that, right?
Yeah,
Not every podcast is equal either, right?
yeah,
Uh,
that's
and,
yeah.
and not so. I hate to say it this way, right? I don't
Mhm,
consider a comic hangout and this show to be the same, right? They are
exactly.
very
Yeah.
different, right? This is a very different entity than a comic hangout.
Mhm,
Nothing wrong with comic hangouts. People are going to see this. This is not an attack on those, right? It's
mhm,
not. But a comic hangout is a bunch of creators, and maybe you get 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and you're all sharing it, and it's helpful, and it can get a lot of views, but sometimes they don't get a lot of views, right?
mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with either one of those things, but you're getting 7 minutes. You're getting an hour, hour 20 minutes
Mhm,
one on one. That's a very different component than a comic hangout, and they
mhm,
both have merit. Me hanging out with I used to run just a wrestling show, and it had nothing to do with comics, and all we're doing is that we're talking wrestling, and people come on, they have Kickstarters, but guess what? They don't promote their Kickstarter. They're just talking about wrestling with us,
mhm.
and that show died. But that also has merit because somebody's learning who this person is and what they think, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And not being sold on it, right? So
Mhm,
I think that's the other thing too that's really interesting about getting on podcasts is that you know understanding what the market looks like, understanding what is what,
yeah.
and also is relevant. But it's also it is look that I know like legitimately 50 people right now who have campaigns, and I'm not
Mhm,
taking all 50 of them. I'm not. No offense to any of them, right? And I
mhm,
rarely do a podcast now, and I don't have a comic, but the part of the reason is that you know I don't find that my ideas and what I view and my positions in life are
mhm.
receptive, and I don't feel like they're valued, right?
Yep.
It's a real issue, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
keep my positions to myself, to be honest. After a while, it's very rare that I'll be on a show. I haven't been on a show in almost 3 years, for that reason.
Wow.
Again, it is, and things happen that we don't have to get
True.
into with certain people, and certain things were said that should not have been said. But the point
Yeah.
is that I think that there is stuff to be said about all that because media is so complicated, but it's also what happens after too because this is now out there indefinitely
Yeah.
and it gets republished under my YouTube and it gets cut up into micro content. And what does that look like a year from now or 2 years from now? And I've had
Mhm,
micro content that's done 20,000 views.
mm.
So what's really, really important right now in that,
Right.
that what happens with the rest of the content after the fact. So I think there's a lot of stuff with
Oh
media
yeah.
that's complicated and it's not always about what it is tomorrow, right? This thing could
Yep.
have
Yep.
30, but what if in 2 years from now it has 10,000?
Or 100,000 or it just keep going and on. Yeah, it keeps going on and on.
It's a very complicated issue because
Mhm,
it cannot help your Kickstarter today, but it could help your brand tomorrow.
Yep.
So,
I
and
agree.
then sorry, what were you saying?
I would just say I agree with you. I'm like, because I'm like everyone has a beginning somewhere, but everything takes time to build.
Yeah, and Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
What happens with people is that they want 10,000 views in an hour.
Well, like
And
five
that's
minutes.
not how this
That's
works.
not
That's
gonna
not how
happen.
this works. I'm sorry, it's
Um,
not how this works. If you get 100 views in an hour, even if you're a mid-sized level podcast, again, it's not how it works. It's slow and it's hell and it's miserable. But what you really want is you want it to grow every year. And once an interview is published, if it's doing 500 views every year and it's just promoting your brand, it's great. But I digress because I want to talk about the other thing too, which is the economy. And I don't know how you feel about the economy, but I think the stock market's killing it, right? The stock market's up and it's higher than it's ever been, and it's up for the year, right? You
mhm.
know, gold is doing well. People hate Bitcoin. I'm a big crypto guy. I love my cryptocurrencies. I think that
I just got into crypto, and it's actually really good. It's actually really cool.
so
If
so so
I was hesitant about it at first, but I know some of my friends got crypto, so I was like okay, my curiosity is kind of curious. And so I'm getting into more. I'm getting into some crypto and some investing, and so it's actually been really good so far. I was like, it's actually, I'm like, the
so
stock market, it really is high right now. I was like, so
it's
I'm gonna invest into this.
it is. It is. So the economy, though, is a
Mhm.
nightmare, right?
Oh,
So
definitely. Oh, definitely.
there's no question about it. I don't know how you feel about it, but money is not as cheap as it used to be. Money
It's
is
not.
very expensive to use. It's very expensive to earn. It's very expensive to engage in. I think
Oh yeah.
people. There was I forgot the YouTuber. I keep forgetting his name, but he was explaining on eBay is that the thing that's going to matter now is you got to be really selective on your merchandise with what you're buying. You got to have strong pricing and you have to have clean titles and good pictures if you want to sell on eBay. And I don't think it's any different than comics as far as you need to have good artwork. You need to have
Mhm.
both in the book, outside the book. You need to have good writing. You need to have strong pricing. And also, you got to understand that people are going to be really selective on what they're
Oh
backing,
yeah.
right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
don't know how you feel about that, but I think that what that guy was saying on eBay does translate over to comics as far as when you're selling a product. I think it's a very universal position. Not perfectly, but close enough where because I'll be honest with you, I only have X amount of money right now,
Mhm.
and I am somewhat on a fixed income at the moment in my life, and that will go up, that will go down, but I think a lot of people this year and even last year were on very much a fixed income. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like how you feel about that because I don't know what your view is, and maybe you see it differently than I do.
Um, that YouTuber, whoever he is, I think he's actually onto something about that because it's not just in comics; it's just in selling. Period. Because look around you, a lot of retail companies are closing down rapidly. And like that's like even like food restaurants. I know like Wendy's is closing a lot of their locations. Um, I forgot those Walgreens have closed a lot of stores, and it's like so. Yeah, the economy is crazy right now, and it's because it's not having really, like strong selling points anymore right now, and it's hurting a lot of businesses. So I'm actually in the same point of view about that, and especially as I'm in my master's learning about stock market, and the economy itself. So I have to know about all of this and like how to and now I'm just learning how to approach it. Um, and but it's gonna be a struggle for a while. It's a lot of stuff with the economy. So yeah, I actually agree with your point of view on that.
And then to go even further into this, because obviously, I mean, your rewards, I mean, your rewards are interesting, right? I mean, there's obviously the digital stuff, and then
Mhm.
there's the basic digital, then there's the deluxe digital, and there's the single issue, which is $10. And let's even talk about that because, $10, it's obviously it's more pricey than Batman from DC, but it's indie, so it's
Yeah.
expected. But I've seen massive pricing where I've seen singles go for 15, I've seen singles go for 20. And so what is that like? Because I think everybody who backs an indie comic understands that's going to cost more than going and picking up Batman and in
Yeah,
your
it
local
is.
shop. I think because you don't have the printing volume to get it downward. But at the
Yeah,
same time,
not yet.
Even if you were to print 300, your printing volume isn't enough, right? You would have to
Yeah.
print offset to get it
Yeah.
down to 5, and
Yeah.
even still offset, you'd be at like $1.20 maybe if you printed 3,000. You're still probably gonna be at 10. The issue is that if you wanted to get it down to $5, you'd have to print like 10,000.
Yeah.
And,
That's a
and
lot.
I'm gonna be honest with you, that's super hard. It's
It's
nothing
very,
against
yeah.
nothing against you. It's goddamn nearly impossible, right? Like
Ooh,
it's really difficult. Okay,
yeah.
well, like I see it, right? And it's not a knock at
Mhm.
anybody, but you could get to 3,000. 3,000 is doable, right? But
Mhm.
the point is that I'm fine spending $10 for an indie book. I'm not okay spending 20 for a cover A.
Mhm.
I think 20 is really high because it's 4 Batmans version 2, right?
Mhm.
There's a big difference between these and this. Big
Mhm.
difference for yeah. So,
Yeah,
but like,
especially for a floppy comic or it's the saddle stitch printing. But if it was like a trade back, like a full-fledged thick trade back, then I guess the 20 would be better. It would be a good pricing point, especially if it's an omnibus.
or let's say you put 4 or 5 issues in a trade and you're charging 20. It's not terrible, right?
Yeah.
The issue is that because keeping it affordable pricing is complicated because you want
Yeah.
to keep it so that somebody can buy your book, but all
Yeah.
these and you don't price them out because you need readers, right? And this
Yep.
is the whole you want to be able to fund and break even or not. Let's say that this whole product is costing 4,500 or 6 grand. You want to be
Mhm.
able to make some of that back pretty efficiently, right?
Mhm.
But you don't. I don't think people have a problem taking a slight loss in the short term if you're getting stuff fun. But if let's say that ideally, I think that I mean I don't know what the rule of thumb is. You obviously want to get back all the money you pumped in, but ideally you want to get at least 50, 60% what you pumped in back off of the Kickstarter. At
Yeah.
least. I would imagine maybe more, maybe less. I don't know, but you want to get something back, right?
Mhm.
But you also don't want to because I'll be honest, if your book was $20 as a single cover, I'd probably say no, thank you, and I'd go to a cheaper option. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so it's really complicated pricing wise to keep it affordable, but also make sure you're not getting destroyed because I don't know. It's such a complicated issue because you need
It
backers,
is.
but you need money, and you can't get completely wiped the fuck out either.
Exactly.
At
Yeah.
all. It's a headache for me to
God,
describe it.
yeah.
It's a headache.
Dude, yeah, this whole process is a headache. But yeah.
It's an economic quagmire. What? What? Everybody doesn't understand quagmire is a real word. And just because Glenn Quagmire from Family Guy doesn't
No,
mean
I understood it because Family Guy came in my head when you said it.
that's why the whole character Quagmire is hilarious. And then his father becomes his mother. Oh, the whole
Oh my
you everybody doesn't realize how brilliant writing that is.
Cragmire has me crying laughing every time he comes on the screen.
There's some funny things. My
Oh,
favorite episode is the stamp episode. This stamp says it's worth 8 cents. It says it's 8 cents, but the book says it's worth 12 cents. See, Chris, we're already 4 cents ahead. And now let's never talk about this again. And then let's go kill ourselves. Dad, can't we just stop talking? No, Chris, it's too late.
it's too late. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, I understood. I understood the reference. That's why I'm crying laughing now because it makes sense.
The stamp, we're up 4 cents. Let's put it in the book and let's never talk about this again. And now let's kill ourselves,
Oh,
Chris. Oh my god, that's one of the
oh
funniest episodes I've ever seen in Family Guy.
man, I
I,
love Family Guy. Oh my god.
but I digress there. But obviously, I like the fact that it's affordable. I think you can get issues 1 and 2, or I think if you get a combo, on this one, I think for ArcFi and this, or I'm not too sure. There's a combo, right, for some of your books here.
Yeah, you can get Arcfire and Hall of Fame and Canvas Fate together at one price.
So there's that. Then there's the shirt combo as well.
Yeah.
there's some so obviously there's a lot of stuff, and then anything you produce, if somebody wants it, I mean, they could probably just reach out to you and you can figure something out, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, yeah,
So if somebody wanted a retail package, they could figure it out with you pretty much,
yeah, they can just email me if they want to. So yeah,
because you could always add in a tier, um, versus removing a tier on Kickstarter. I didn't know if you
yeah,
knew that.
yeah, I
Uh,
do.
so it's super cool. I didn't know that you could do that, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Um,
Oh yeah.
but and then obviously, I mean, there's just some other stuff, obviously, I mean, talking about just the industry collectively, I don't know where you feel it's going, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in comics right
Mhm,
now. And,
mhm.
and, and I have my opinions on all of it, and my opinions are very different than everybody else's. But a lot of stuff has changed in the last 2 years. I mean, I'll just name a few of those changes. Tariffs are an issue. The economy, which we touched upon. Obviously, a bunch of U.S. printers have popped up now. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
on top of the fact that there are more people doing this, without a doubt. Um,
Mhm.
there are more than ever before. Competition is higher than it's ever been. People are more
And then
selective.
and then the tear down of distributors.
I was going to get to that,
Like,
and we said
yeah,
Diamond, and we. I mean, I just had Philip Russell on, who does FIBO publishing. I
yeah.
just had him on.
I'm with Filbo Distribution. Yeah,
So obviously, what he's doing, Lunar, Penguin, other people,
so many different things. It's crazy. Yeah.
and so I'm and a lot of stuff has happened in the industry,
Mhm,
and both good and bad, both in good and bad. So
mhm.
what is this like for you? Because I hate to say it, but it's no man's land.
You're not wrong. Especially with this AI stuff going on,
That's
where
another
people
thing too.
being lazy. They don't want to treat artists right. They don't want to pay artists, so they going a lazy route using AI and stuff. So that's also making things
I'm
worse.
gonna ask you about that. So so
Mhm,
so so this is my whole viewpoint on AI, and my viewpoint is that I love it. I love it, and here's why I love it. I think artists, and people hate me when I say this, I think they've gotten lazy. They've gotten a little too comfortable, to be honest. I think there has to be evolution. There has to be competition, right?
mhm,
I went into a comic shop 4 years ago, right? And I looked at every cover and I said they all look the same. There's nothing that's challenging and breaking and trying to do some pop-up crazy art, right? I go
mhm,
into look at tattoos, right? You
mhm,
got some crazy new school shit. You got some trash polka stuff in there. You got
mhm,
all this crazy new school art. You got hexagon art and shapes, and it looks like the freaking octagon is like popping out and going into the guy's chest, and it looks like
mhm,
it doesn't look real. It's an optic illusion. I'm like, man, they're pushing lines here. I didn't even know this was fucking possible on a person's skin, right?
mhm,
And then I look at art, and I feel like comics to a degree has not been pressed that way. And I'm like, we got some of the most talented people, and there's no pressing, right? So
mhm,
I think AI is a presser, right? I think it's pushing it because anything can be done. And I also feel, and this is where it gets controversial, is that artists have took the opposite approach to AI. They said, if AI is here, I'm going to become more expensive. And I feel that that further pushed AI, because now
uh,
every artist is going to charge another $100. It gets to a point where I'm bankrupted and I'm out of money. So why
mhm,
wouldn't I go AI, which is going to cost me $50? And it's like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If
mhm,
anything, if you guys want to stop AI from taking over, you got to push the art style. You got to push getting creative. You got to get funkier and weirder, and you got to invent new styles, and you got to become more reasonably priced. I'm not saying you got to starve, but you can't be charging me $1,200 for a cover when you should be really charging me eight.
mhm.
And what happened? That everybody took saying AI is here, so I'm going to charge you another $200 because it's going to put me out of business. And then I'm like, great, you're pushing me towards the AI. I mean,
It's
if
as I say now, like you're putting yourself out of business, overpricing yourself.
so that's my whole issue with the AI position. And every time I
Mhm,
want to have this discussion, I say, let's have a debate, let's have a discussion. Nobody wants to do it.
mhm.
let's have this discussion. I'm like, you guys don't get it. You're gonna end. But it gets more complicated than this because we have AI marketing in comics now. We have AI ads. We have AI spell check. We have AI running it. We have AI trend checking. I can run a trend on an AI ChatGPT and run my comic script idea and say, is this thing going to fly off? And ChatGPT will give me an honest answer. It's not just art. It's not. It's much more than art, but everybody only talks about no AI art. It infuriates me because I don't think people are thinking it through. And I'm not saying that you should use AI art per se, but I think it's a merited discussion.
That's fair. Like, I can understand that. Yeah.
But I get because I don't want to take somebody's job away. But I also say to myself, like, if we don't have a discussion about it, then what are we doing here? Because if you don't talk about an issue, the issue is going to happen anyway.
True.
Isn't it better to talk about the issue, know how to beat the issue, defend the issue, and take preventative care, or at least mitigate the issue so you get another 5 years before it kills you? Like, I mean, I'm just logical on the issue, right?
Yeah.
I would treat this no differently than I would treat a cancer patient, providing chemo. But again, you don't have to answer that because it's a controversial position. But it's not something that I just shot off the top. You know, this issue for like 2-3 years. It is a out position, right?
I think my position on AI is like yes, I think AI is a tool, and you could use it honestly, but I'm always been a believer. Like, I would rather have a human draw my comics and stuff. So I'm still a big believer on that. And I've seen AI art. It looks funky to me, especially when you can tell when it's AI especially when they give the AI gives this thing like an extra finger or extra whatever on it. But I understand people's
crazy part about it. You want to hear something crazy about AI?
What?
There are 3 AI models on the internet who have like 50 to 100,000 Instagram followers.
Jesus Christ, I'm not surprised.
Chill XO. She's got an OnlyFans. You got I forget the other one, super trippy, and there's a third one, and like it just looks sick. Like it's high-end AI. It's awesome. They're major brand ambassadors. I mean, like you got these people working with like Gucci and Tiffany and like Hooters. I mean, it's wild. It's like the metaverse on steroids, and it's awesome, right? And so like I view this, I'm like I would put Jill XO on my comic cover. Like I would license it, and if I did a book, absolutely, because she's got a huge fan base. But it raises a question now, right? Doesn't it raise a question as if something is an AI position and an AI model and the AI world that is brand ambassador to the T, but then you put it on a comic book, it's a little complicated now, isn't it? But like the AI shit is wild. And this is why I look at this and I'm like, this is fascinating, right? Because what's being done hasn't existed ever before. And this is why I have all these questions about it. And this is why I want to have these discussions. Because once you see this shit, it's mind blowing. And it changed your perspective because it has to. It has to. I'm not saying you have to fully agree, but I mean, Jill XO is fascinating, right? It's a fascinating project to the T. It's fun. It's fun. And we all know it's AI. We all know it's AI. There's another one where it looks AI and absolutely fascinating. And it's terrifying because the only reason how you know it's AI is that it's too perfect. That's how you know it's AI.
Interesting.
But that doesn't mean it's not attractive. Doesn't mean it doesn't sell. Doesn't mean it's mind blowing. But I digress. I was just curious your opinion. I am the odd person out on this issue.
I was like, I'm more of a neutral person. Like, I listen to both. I hear both sides. I'm like, I don't hate it, and I don't like it at the same time. But I was like, but it is a tool that we could utilize. I don't like. I'm like people. Like I know people like worry about it taking a job, taking jobs and everything. And well, I was like, but like when you brought up like artists, I'm like, I'm gonna be more expensive because AI's out. It's like you're putting yourself out of a job for being more expensive though. So you can't really blame AI on that.
I'm all for free market determination. I'm a
Yeah.
capitalist individual. I like free market determination, but
Mhm.
there gets a point where great, like you're 12, $1,500. It's like, no offense. It's like you're pricing yourself out of the business and then you're furthering creating a self prophecy.
Yeah.
It's like, I know exactly what I'm worth in the marketplace. As far as my job, I have a real good idea what I should be paid in my next job. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm going to try to negotiate higher. But I know that if somebody offers me 40 grand for me working, no, thank you. I'm worth more than that. On
Mhm.
a salary basis for what I do in my shoot job. But
Yep.
again, it's tricky, right? It's tricky,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's this whole thing's tricky on what people should be paid. It's
Agreed.
so hard. It's so hard to figure it out. But free market
Agreed.
determines. Free market always determines, but that doesn't mean it determines the value. What you're paid to do something and the value of what you do are not the same.
Exactly.
But I digress. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how you feel about diamond. I prefer topazes, but that's not my point.
Like
Um,
I don't really care for Diamond. I never work with them, so I don't know. But from what I've heard, they screwed everything up. That's but
they went from a chapter 11 to a chapter 7. So
yeah,
chapter
I get
11 is
that.
restructure, bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is insolvency. Um,
Yeah. So
no, nobody's basically we're talking 5 million with a bunch of stuff. A lot of people screwed. Um,
yeah.
Nothing against anybody. I mean, look, I was speaking to a friend and he lost 2 grand on them, and I said, dude, it could have
Oof.
been like for a small publisher, it's a lot of money. I said, yeah, for a small publisher, it's a lot of money, but it's solvable. Yeah, a 2 grand problem for
Yeah.
me is nothing. It's nothing in reality.
Mhm.
If I did my last 4 days right from Friday to Sunday, 2 grand was nothing. I had like a $3,500 swing gambling up and down. I ended up. I want to make that crystal clear. I don't have a gambling problem, buddy. Um, it, 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 but trust me, there were moments where it was a rough Friday night. It's a rough Friday
Mhm.
night. Me and a lot of other people also had a rough Friday night. We all had a better Sunday. Um, we all are part of a gambling group. We meet on Fridays, under the Brooklyn Bridge. The left side, I want to make it crystal clear. We tried to take the right side, but somebody was there first, so we politely said, "We're not going to fight you." And they said the left side's free, so we took it. Compromise, guys. You got to compromise. Um,
Right.
but if you go on a Thursday night, that's where the Jedi's meet. But if you pick the wrong side, you might end up with a red lightsaber, not a green one. Just be careful, right? So if you're at Brooklyn on a Thursday night around 11 o'clock, you might, and you haven't picked a side in the fight yet. You get a choice, right? Go right or left,
Mhm.
but know that you can't cross back and forth unless your name's Anakin. So. Anyway, I digress here. I am on a Star Wars vibe right now, as well as a Pokemon drive. I am on the third gym, in a quest to get all 8 badges. Hey, somebody's got it. Um,
Hey man,
but I digress because I do want to talk about what's happening in May. Do you know what's going on in May?
I don't actually.
We're finally getting it. We're getting the once that we've all been waiting for years. Gina versus Ronda.
Oh, yes, I do know about that. I did post about that earlier. Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, I am
Yeah.
so
I
excited.
didn't know what date it was. I just saw the poster. I didn't know
It's
what
in
day it was.
May. It's in LA. It's I don't even know. It's not even like a UFC fight. I mean, they're different weight classes. I mean, Ronda's coming out for
I
retirement.
saw it's gonna be on Netflix.
I
And
love it. I love
yeah,
it. It's gonna be great. What a brilliant company.
yeah, I left a comment. I said, "Team Gina." I'm going Team Gina. And
Oh no.
one of my friends responded to me. He said they about 10, 20 years late, but he's Team Gina too. So we're both Team Gina. I'm not a big MMA fan, but I know I know the MMA fighters though. I'm a fan of. I was like, but I'm more of a Gina fan than I'm a Wonder fan, if I'm being honest. So that's what I'll say. I'm Team Gina on that one.
I mean, I like Ronda Rousey because I liked her in the Entourage movie. I thought she was funny in that movie. I thought she was
Oh
really
yeah, that
funny
was a good movie. That was a good movie.
with,
Yeah.
with Turtle. She's like, if you could last more than a minute, I'll let you fuck me, Turtle. I thought that was hilarious because it's a Ronda.
I wonder was that scripted or was that improv? Because that felt like it was improv.
It might have been improv, to be honest.
It felt like
It was pretty
improv.
funny though. It was pretty funny
It
though.
was.
And then Turtle's like, how long have you lasted? How long have you lasted?
Oh my god! I'm like, that felt like it was improv. That gotta be improv. Oh my god, gotta
Well,
be.
I enjoyed Entourage as a show collectively. I thought it was really, really fun, right? Jeremy Piven, all those guys. Like I loved Entourage. Thought it was great. But that should be good. But anyway, I mean, we've been speaking for a while. You got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, you do a lot of stuff. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people back the campaign? Check out what you do. Obviously, all of that stuff. Obviously, your podcast and your company, your website, all of that. So where can people find you? Do all that stuff.
My my name's Kevin Davis. I have a new comic called Halloween out on Kickstarter. It's up now. You can find it on Kickstarter Halloween. You can find me on Instagram at I am Kevin Davis Official. My company website at kevisite.com. I'm also on Facebook at I am Kevin Davis CEO, and YouTube also at Kevisite. And yeah, and if you're also on TikTok, I'll go by I am Kevin Davis CEO as well. So. But yeah, but Halloween is out now. It came out on Friday the 13th, which I did not know was Friday the 13th a couple of days ago. But if you like clowns, if you like horror, if you like slasher, murder mystery, supernatural story, I believe you will love Halloween. So I hope you check it out. Oh,
Yeah.
and podcast Kevin's Network. It's also on my YouTube at Kevin's side. So yeah.
And then obviously it's my show, so I'm going to promote myself here. I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, Pop Anime Comics, pretty much anywhere else. I do run an eBay store. So right here, everybody, look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay. And I sell a lot of stuff, cards, comics. So I sell comics like this in my store. I sell stuff like this in my store. As soon as it pops up, there we go. Hopefully it's going to pop up soon. It's not working. StreamYard's giving me a hard time lately. So yeah, there we go. Right there. So I sell stuff like this. Sorry about that. I sell stuff like that. And then I sell a lot of cards like this in my store. I sell cards like this in my store. So this right here, everybody, sell this, sell these, which are limited 25 Angel Reese's. I sell stuff like this, which are 101s. I sell stuff like this in my store, which is also 101. And that stuff does not stick around for all that long. So you got to definitely, when that's listed in my store, you got to jump on it. And I will say this is that obviously, first and foremost, if you're looking for comics and cards, and go to my store because I move merch around a lot. I shift through merch a lot. I sell a lot of stuff. So look through it. If you don't see what you're looking for, please shoot me a message on eBay. Ask if I have it because I may have it. It just might not be listed. And if I have it, I'm more than happy to sell it to you. And if I don't have it, I have a lot of friends in the industry. I know a lot of people who have stuff, and I got a lot of friends who sell stuff that I don't sell, and I sell stuff they don't sell. And I'm more than happy to direct you to them so you can get what you want because I get it. Hunting down rare comics, hunting down rare cards is difficult. It is difficult, and I know it. And there's been plenty of people that I've done that for. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And that's pretty much everything I got going on. So on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Go check out Halloween and go check out Andrew's store.
I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.